Friends, give a small like to our video because we have worked very hard to create it. And to watch more videos like this, subscribe to our channel and ring the bell icon next to it. Let's get started. Once upon a time, in a quiet little town nestled between rolling hills, there lived an old man named Elias. He was a gentle soul with a twinkle in his eye and a warm laugh that could brighten even the gloomiest day. The townsfolk adored him, often seeking him out at his small wooden bench by the river, where he'd sit whittling little figures from scraps of wood. Elias had a way of making everyone feel heard, and his calm presence drew people to him like moths to a flame. One afternoon, a young woman named Myra approached him, her brow furrowed with worrying. She sat beside him and sighed. "Elias, you're always so peaceful, so content. How do you do it? Life is so hard sometimes. My crops failed this year, and I don't know how I'll make ends meet. Don't you ever feel weighed down by troubles?" Elias set down his knife and the half-carved bird in his hands. He looked at her with a kind smile and said, "Myra, life is like this river. It flows, sometimes smooth and sometimes rough. I've learned that peace doesn't come from the water being still. It comes from how I choose to sail it." Myra tilted her head, puzzled. "But how can you feel peaceful when everything's falling apart? I don't understand." Elias leaned back, gazing at the rippling water. "Let me tell you something from my own life. When I was about your age, I had a little shop in town. I sold tools and trinkets I'd made myself. It wasn't much, but it kept me and my sister fed. Then one night, a fire broke out. The shop burned to the ground. Everything I'd worked for, gone in a few hours. I stood there, watching the flames, feeling like my whole world had crumbled." Myra's eyes widened. "That's awful. What did you do?" "At first," Elias continued, "I was angry. I shouted at the sky, cursed my luck. I didn't sleep for days, just sat in the ashes, wondering why it had to happen to me. But then my sister came to me. She was younger, barely grown, and she said, 'Elias, we're still here. The fire didn't take us.' That hit me hard. I realized I could sit there hating the world, or I could start again." "So you rebuilt the shop?" Myra asked. Elias chuckled. "No, I didn't have the money for that. But I started over in a different way. I took what I had left my hands, my skill, and began making things again, right here by the river. People still needed what I could offer, and slowly, I found my footing. The fire took my shop, but it didn't take my spirit. I decided I wouldn't let it." Myra frowned, still unsure. "But how do you keep that spirit when bad things keep happening?" "It's not just one fire for me, it's one thing after another." Elias picked up his carving again, his fingers moving deftly. "Every day, I wake up and look for something that's still good. Maybe it's the sound of the birds, or the way the light hits the hills. Maybe it's just that I've got breath in my lungs. When the bad comes, and it will, I tell myself, this is just a storm. It'll pass, and I hold on to the little joys until it does." "What if the storm feels too big?" Myra pressed. "It's never easy," Elias admitted. "Some days, I have to look harder than others. When my sister passed away a few years back, I thought the sadness would swallow me whole. But I kept going. For her, I'd sit here and carve, remembering her laugh, and that kept me steady. Peace isn't about pretending the bad doesn't exist, it's about finding the good anyway." Myra sat quietly, watching the river flow. Elias handed her the little wooden bird he'd been working on. "Take this," he said. "When you're feeling lost, hold it and remember, you get to choose what you carry with you, the weight or the wings." She smiled faintly, clutching the bird. "I'll try, Elias, I'll try to find the wings." From that day on, Myra took his words to heart. When her crops failed, she found joy in the wildflowers that grew instead. When money was tight, she bartered with neighbors and felt grateful for their kindness. Slowly, she noticed her days felt lighter, even when life was hard. Word of Elias's wisdom spread through the town. And soon others began to seek out the small joys to a child's giggle, a warm meal, a shared story. The town grew stronger, not because their troubles vanished, but because they learned to sail the river, just like Elias. And so, through the old man's quiet lessons, they discovered that peace and joy were choices ones they could make every day, no matter what the river brought. What do you think of this story? Share your thoughts in the comments and pass it on to your friends. Thank you.